And those commitments now are over 40 million hectares. In fact, a couple of days ago, they exceeded 50 million hectares with several new countries coming on board. Well, when you look at the situation at the ground level, you find that in countries like Kenya, which has committed now just recently 5.1 million hectares of targeted restoration. Much of that is on farmlands, these red and yellow areas. And the yellow areas are areas where tree cover on agricultural land now exceeds 10%. In fact, 70% of agricultural land in Kenya has greater than 10% tree cover. Well, one of the most interesting commitments is the small country of Rwanda, where I was just recently, and all of this yellow is their commitment to restoration, of which almost entirely the area is to be restored through agroforestry. Well, that makes sense because Rwanda is almost all agricultural land, hill slopes, terracing, and the development of tree-based systems on terrace risers. But one of the areas that we have really come to grips with in Rwanda is the opportunity for small-scale farmers farming these hill slopes to put in place fodder shrubs and fertilizer shrubs throughout their maize production systems in order to be able to provide an integrated soil fertility management system and dramatic increases in biomass cover and storage of carbon in the soil. And just the other day, the Ministry of Agriculture committed to work with us to actually make this happen over all of the farmlands in Rwanda. Likewise, in areas with mechanized crop production systems, conservation agriculture can be combined with the integration of nitrogen-fixing trees to dramatically increase yields while increasing the storage of carbon as well. Indeed, what we find is that conservation agriculture, your zero-tillage systems, as you see here, on the average, will increase soil carbon no more than about 0.2 tons per hectare at the most. But trees integrated into these systems can jack up that carbon value to 1 to 2 tons of carbon stored in the landscape above and below ground per year on an annual basis. And so you're talking about 5 to 10 times the potential for carbon storage as you begin to put trees into agricultural systems. The big issue for scaling up, of course, is adapting these kinds of systems, as are promoted in Zambia in this case, to much, much greater areas around the world. And then there's the potential for combining, mixing and matching shrub-based fertilizer and fodder tree systems with full canopy systems such as Phytoherbia, which has reverse phenology and is dormant during the wet season, doesn't compete with the crops. So there is enormous potential for scaling up these areas, and just came from the field yesterday where we found Phytoherbia doing extremely well in eastern Rwanda. Well, what about the more subtropical, cooler parts of the world and the temperate areas? Well, China has been encouraging farmers to grow timber trees with their wheat systems, getting almost identical wheat yields because the trees in these systems are deciduous and they don't compete with the wheat crop during the cool time of the year. But even also interesting is the systems that are developing in Europe, and the fact that the Common Agricultural Policy has flipped to supporting and encouraging and subsidizing farmers to put trees into their agricultural systems. And indeed, the future in Europe looks very bright for the carbon sequestration through these type of systems, as well as in North America, by the way, where a lot of work is going on in the Midwest on developing systems like this that are not just getting trees into agriculture, they are dramatically increasing the profitability of agriculture, diversifying and stabilizing returns to farmers. Well, let's sum up by looking at